All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to season number 3, episode number 8 of our Global Radio Ideas webinar series. It's great to see you again. My name is Ken Benson from the P1 Media Group, and joining us from Stuttgart, Germany, as usual, the home of Benztown, a global leader in imaging and production. Welcome, CEO Andy Sanneman.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Ken. So it's so great to be back. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. Join the conversation, the incredible Now Radio success story, part 2. So Ross Winters and Mark Hunter are back to share more about the incredible success of Now Radio. They also be, of course, answering them questions this time. So it's going to be a good thing.
Welcome back a guy that's a pretty mean bike rider. Ross Winters, he's Pattison Media Director of Programming based in Vancouver, Canada. And that's a photo of he and I this summer mountain biking in Whistler, Canada, which was a whole lot of fun.
Thanks, Ken. It's great to be back, and it's great to get out on the bike anytime.
Absolutely. And we've had some beautiful weather this autumn in the Pacific Northwest, so it's been terrific for riding.
Looks stunning, though. And we also welcome back the architect and first program director of Now Radio Edmonton. Today, he's launching and overseeing all the new Now stations in Calgary, Vancouver, and the city who's half under the earth, what I learned in our pre-show before, Winnipeg. Senior program director, Now and Today Brands. Welcome back, Mark Hunter.
Thank you very much. I love that you guys had matching helmets. That was adorable.
Yeah, it looked like a cute couple, though.
You should have seen those spandex bike shorts.
Yeah, you didn't see that part.
Nope, sure didn't want to. Okay. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, so you're welcome. Thanks for being back. In part 1 of the webinar we had in September, we learned that Mark Hunter had a crazy idea and pitched to the owners he wanted to do conversation radio, although he wasn't really sure what it was. He was determined to do things differently and was given the mandate to get a station in the top 5 in Edmonton, Canada. So his thought was, if we feature conversations, we're engaging, have fun, it might work. So he looked all over Canada to find interesting people from interesting walks of life to lead the conversation. He added a unique playlist blending CHR, alternative, and the hot AC charts, and launched with a very simple promise that we're going to respond to every single inbound text, which we learned was around 1 million in the first 18 months. And the rest has been history. And I think, Mark, this was 2010, right?
Yeah, we signed on in February of 2010. Yeah. Okay.
And once they got to the second or third book, the station's been #1 in ratings and revenue ever since, which is even more remarkable. They only run 6 minutes of ads an hour, which I think most of your competitors are probably at 12. And if you look at the Now Radio website, you won't see any ads on the website. It's probably the only website in the world from a private radio station that doesn't have an ad on it. So to do that and achieve that extraordinary revenue with only 6 minutes of ads on the radio an hour is truly amazing. So don't know how you all do it, but I'm sure there's a bunch of sales managers that would love to know how.
Oh, no. Salespeople do not like me at all because we don't run ads. We don't put everything up for sale. So, all they have to sell is commercials, 30-second and 60-second spots. That's all they get.
They must be getting a lot of money for them. So that's good. So, what you guys accomplished at Now Radio in Edmonton is simply extraordinary. And for 12 consecutive years to be #1 in ratings and revenue is, the success is undeniable. But, as you know, I've worked in Canada for 20 years. And in my travels over the last 10 to 12 years, when I talk to radio people at other companies, everyone seems to have talked about Now Radio's incredible success. But they all tell me they don't really understand it or don't get it. But certainly the audience has. And why do you suppose it is that radio people don't get Now Radio when they tune it in?
You know what? Go ahead, Ross.
I was just going to say, because I was in that position. I was working in Toronto at the time, the center of the universe, of course, and this radio station in Edmonton kept popping up that it was doing some things different, and it was getting great ratings. And so I listened to it, and I didn't really get it. It was kind of unusual to hear so much talk on pop music radio. But the one thing that really intrigued me was just great talent. And I really liked the hosts, and they were leading the conversations. And the station had, as you mentioned a second ago, Ken, less commercials. You know what? And they didn't do remotes. And so, well, that part was definitely intriguing to me. But, you know, I've been thinking about that question. And I think that, you know, some PDs have wrapped their head around it. They get it. So some radio people get it, but it takes more than the program director to get it. You need the general manager, you need the president, you need the owner, because it's a real big commitment. But I've been thinking about why do some people not get it, and I think it's because it's, you know, if you compare it to a music format, which is easy to wrap your head around. So when the 80s became a format in the early 2000s, it was pretty easy to get. You know, it's in some cases it had the moniker Jack. And they added personality to it, and they added all this, you know, wacky kind of non-radio stuff. But in the end, it was really a music format that had an audience with a big appetite for the 80s. And so any music format for anybody is pretty easy to wrap your head around. But now radio isn't a music format. It's got music, obviously, but it's not a music format. It's not driven by that. It's high engagement with your audience, telling stories. So I think a music format in our minds, oh, I can hear it. Conversation radio in a lot of people's minds, I can't hear it. And you could research a music format, but you can't research conversation radio. So I think that's part of why people didn't get it.
Well, I think your positioner alone, join the conversation, is so counter to anything anybody knows about music radio. So let's talk a bit more about the conversation, because it is such a driver and I think the powerful differentiator on the radio station. So you say the host can talk about anything, anytime, and have the freedom to say whatever they want, whenever they want. But is there anything that's off limits? Any topics you just say, you know, let's not go there? What would those be?
Well, you know, we did a lot of research, honestly, when we started this after and through focus groups and things like that. And our focus groups are telling us they don't want us to be a news station. They don't want us to be a political station. They come to us for fun, entertainment, engaging conversations. And that took all the pressure off. And then we went, okay, we know what the audience wants, so let's just do that. Can we talk about all these things? I always say to my hosts, if you're educated enough to talk about something, you can talk about it. But if you're just guessing, don't talk about it. You know, we're not there to educate people. We're there to entertain people. So we, you know, and we will, the Now family, that is what we call our listeners. They will try and hijack us and get us to talk about something. And you know, we have conversations constantly rotating on our activity stream through Commotion and on our website. And you can see these people talking, and it's fine. But, you know, I always, my person is, this is a cocktail party at my house. And you don't want somebody coming in talking about hard things. We want to have a nice cocktail and some eats and talk about fun things and entertain each other and have some laughs. That's what we're here for.
So I guess
that makes sense.
That would eliminate most political talk on the radio station.
Yeah, notice that wrong, but the presenters never say the station's name. Is that correct? What do they say? Why is that? And why do the Now hosts do that differently? Because kind of the first time.
It's a funny question, because, you know, when we were building this radio station, we wanted to be different than everybody else. So we didn't want to have the hosts say their name, say the call letter, say the time, say the frequency, say any of those things, because that's what every other radio station does. So we're not going to do that. So everything in the building of Now Radio was that. How's everybody else doing this? Let's not do it that way. Find a different way so it's interesting and intriguing. So we have this produced, we call it a bumper. It's a produced bumper that says the host's name, call letters, join the conversation, does all the work. So all they have to do when they come out of a song is tell them, they don't even have to backsell the song unless it's a brand new song. That's my only caveat on that. But if it's just, you know, Bryan Adams, Summer of '69, we all know that song in Canada. It's fairly popular. So,
it's our national anthem, actually.
Basically. So we don't have to backsell that, you know, but we could say, man, I had that cranked up to 10. Then we hit the bumper, and the bumper introduces the host of the radio station, does all the work. And then when the host speaks, in my eyes, it's Pavlovian. When the host speaks, it should be interesting. It shouldn't be any of that white noise. It shouldn't be anything to do with selling, hype, any of that. We do all that in production. And then the hosts, when they come on, they just go, so today we're talking about Stuttgart, Germany, and their lack of focus.
All right. So let's, long-term success, we start off talking about the increased amount of speech that people hear on now radio. And I think due to the long-term success in Canada, you're hearing more speech and more talk on music stations on some Canadian radio stations. Maybe they're following your lead. You've done it on some of your own radio stations. We've seen in the last year, stations like Z100 in New York have now added a two-person, a more speech-oriented afternoon show. Q99.7 in Atlanta, a CHR station, has done the same. Is this a good thing for radio is the first question. And the second question would be, what would you suggest to a music radio programmer? What are the considerations they should make before automatically upping the talk quotient on their radio station?
Maybe I'll start and then segue to Mark on that. But I think, I always think that increased personality is a good thing for radio, providing that it's personality. We've done quite a job over the last number of years of teaching talent they can only talk for a few seconds at a time and then be quiet. That's not the type of talent that we look for at Now Radio. We really look for people who are able to speak. But so increasing the talent quotient, I think it's great for radio, along with being local. That's really what makes us, that differentiates us in our medium. I think there's, like you said, there's been an increase in two-person shows outside of breakfast, which can be highly entertaining. We had and have two-person shows, swing shows, on Now Radio and some of our conversation stations. So, that's one thing. But radio's done a good job over the years of eliminating, shows, overnight shows, evening shows. We need more talent, not less talent on radio in general, especially now with, so much competition, and that being, one of our unique selling points. So, but I would say some more great talent we need. And then on top of that, we need great PDs who can coach, and that's a real key. So, Mark?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think that is key. I was fortunate enough when I was made program director of this radio station to not have any other duties but be a program director. I didn't have a second station. I didn't have to manage any other departments. I didn't have to work in any other markets. The company invested in all of us, honestly, including Ross, including to make this station the best it can be and work hard at it. And what that means is every day I'm meeting with all the talent, every day. And it's either an air check of what they was on their show yesterday, or it's a jam where we sit down and talk about what's going on in the world right now and how can we bring that to a conversation on the radio station. We work on the context, we work on the conflict, we work on the drama, we work on the ask, and it's every day. And it is exhausting, but man, is it rewarding. But an everyday part is treated like a morning show. Every morning, every show is treated like a morning show. So they all get attention. And once they get going, like you have the host slides up right now, and the top is Crash and Mars. They started off playing 8 songs an hour and talking. And between the three of us, we kind of figured out how to do it and make it better. They're naturals at it. Then we added 2 more people to the show. So now it's a zoo. And they play absolutely, sometimes no music in a 4-hour show. Sometimes no music. They'll just talk as a group, and they include the audience, and they text and engage. And we do this, all live. We take live phone calls. We do have a delay system, which is necessary in our world. So we have a 7-second delay. But in the 5 years that the delay's been set up, it's been hit twice, because I get an automatic email alert when we hit the delay, and then I phone in and go, "What happened?" And swore, so we took care of it. But we tell everybody, you're going to be live on the radio station, and you're an adult. You don't need to swear, okay? So there's kids listening. Let's go. And now family joins us. So I think that, you know, I went off tangents like I always do, but I think that if you're willing to put in the time as a program director and get your management team, as Ross alluded to, your general manager, your owner, and everybody on the same page, then the program director's job is just to be a source of content and direction. And also, because this is a tough world they live in, right? They get beat up, get people talking to them, people mean to them. It's my job to prop them up and make them feel great and give them a great platform to work with and just sit back and enjoy it. It's so much fun to listen to.
Great thing about being a PD, you know, great thing about being a PD in this format is you really become part of the process with the talent. You have to. I mean, you have to work with them a lot, but you're also generating ideas with them, and they'll have some conversation ideas. So the PD's jobs, okay, let's look at that from a couple different angles. So you're really part of that whole conversation investment as the program director.
Well, that's fantastic, and I think we all see the rewards of that. Also, for you personally, because you both seem to love it after so many years, which is, I think, a success by itself. So, Mark, Now Radio has been a big user of creative outdoors. So, can you share some of your favorite campaigns and maybe how it factored into your success, if you can like combine that?
Sure. Yeah. So this what you're looking at right now on the screen was our teaser campaign, and I'm a huge fan of tease campaigns. So what happened is when we decided to turn on the radio station on February 23rd, 30 days before that, we did 3 campaigns at 10 days apiece. I thought it was 2 weeks. I had to check my notes, Ken. So if I screwed you up there, sorry. But so we put up just the single word "when" on 180 billboards in Edmonton. Edmonton's a population of about 1.2, 1.3 million people. And so we blanketed the city with that, and also on bus benches and on buses. And we had a TV campaign. So the company was very, very serious about making this work. So they pulled out their wallet and put some money down. So we came up with the word "when." We ran that for 10 days. And if you go on blogs back then in 2010, people are going, what is when? What is when? Right? Nobody knows. So after 10 days, we put up the word "soon." Took all the "whens" down, just put up the word "soon." And again, you know, it's just driving people a little bit batty, wondering what we're doing. And then we put up the word "now," and that ran for 10 days, but we didn't turn the radio station on yet. We just had the word "now" up. So of course, now we're making the newspaper, we're making TV, newscasts, everybody's going, what the heck is "now"? And, you know, this was through our company Now, Pattison, that we had this billboard, and they were getting barraged with phone calls with everybody going, who's this advertiser? What's going on? So, you know, we just, and then when we turned on the radio station at 1:02 p.m., we put in our final billboard up that said, now playing 102.3 Now Radio. Very simple. And you know, obviously we caused a stir because we had quite a few people listening to us in the first days. And, you know, we promised to answer every text. And text day 1, we had 150 texts. And we went, yeah, we can answer 150 texts. We're good at this. You know, and then at the end of a month, now we're getting 4,000 to 5,000 texts a day. And just overwhelming. And what a great problem to have, right? So campaign. I had 2 other campaigns if I have time. But one is... Sure. My buddy, my producer, Johnny, him and I were in my office and we were sketching billboards, and we're trying to put billboards that looked like there was a mistake made on purpose because you would read it. So we would sketch, you know, join the conversation. And then we wrote in the words, insert logo here, you know, like it'd be something you would send to a designer and let the designer do. It's very rough. So we shipped that off to the owner, who was down in the Caribbean somewhere. And, his wife was at the fax machine because we used faxes then, and all these drawings were coming over, and she goes, I love this billboard campaign. And he phoned me and said, put it up just like this. And I went, are you sure? So it's Sharpie. And we sent it to the billboard company, and they thought we were insane. But we put them up, and of course, we had those come up with insert logo here first. And then eventually we wrote in Now Radio, or our own logo, and put that up over top of it, and did all those changes. One of the funniest ones we did is I called it Red Scarf Girl. So we had a billboard go up going, hey, I saw you at the LRT, our light rail transit system. I saw you at the LRT, Red Scarf Girl, want to meet? And that was it. We put up billboards like that all over the city. So again, people are going, what? And then we started a conversation with her. She finally ended it, but it was 13 billboards long, this conversation. That ran over 2 months. And it was just them trying to get a romance going. And now radio coming in going, hey, we think we know where Red Scarf Girl is. Contact us. And so we tried to get them to have a date, and it was, and none of it was true. But it was hysterical and such an audacious waste of money in everybody else's eyes but ours. And it just gets attention. So this is our latest billboard. This came up from Jay Stone and Ross. I'm not sure if you were involved, but I wasn't. But this is all the Now family. These are pictures of people's faces. So the way it worked is we go on to say, we want to be a part of the Now family. Send us your photo. And we had a website, and we had this program that automatically generates this billboard. And so it's very cool. And, you know, when you're driving by, you don't see any faces, obviously. But we made it a social media campaign where we say, go find your face. Take a picture with you and your face on the billboard and share it. And so the people that are doing this are taking pictures, and they're spreading the news for us. Right? They're spreading it to their friends, their family, and they're part of a major campaign that's running on 45 billboards in Edmonton right now.
Yeah, and
fact, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say you know, you can go on the station's website and find yourself, and so that's one of the beauties of this. Jay's idea was to get the brand or the brand pillar Now Family. He wanted to get the Now Family on the billboard, and so like Mark said, he found this company that I think it's picturemosaics.com that does this type of thing, and found a way to get all of the Now family on a billboard. And he said, I talked to him this morning about it. He's probably on this call right now, but
yep.
Yeah, and I've seen it on the website, and the coolest part is that it's interactive, right? You can just float your mouse over all these pictures to try and find yourself, which is just awesome. And you know, hats off again, Sue. I mean, to get your idea and to get the owner to commit to running billboard campaigns for a month that they're spending lots of money for without your name on it is, you know, doesn't really happen very often. But the intrigue it created and where it led you guys was remarkable and certainly well worth it. So, I mean, there's a lesson, I think, to be learned there for all of radio, that you don't always have to have your logo up there if there's a bigger idea. And
there's Jay Stone.
Yeah. So very cool. So listen, for those of you joining us today, we're talking with Ross Winters and Mark Hunter, a couple of the masterminds behind the famous 102.3 Now Radio in Edmonton. If you have a question for them, they're going to take your questions at the end of the webinar. So feel free to put them in the chat box, and we'll get to as many as we can. And Ross Winters has also promised a big announcement at the end of the webinar today.
Breaking news, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Mark should have done that because Mark loves teasers, so Mark should have done that. So
I'm going to get a billboard. Hang on, I'll just go etch something real quickly here and bring it back. That's a joke.
So just we have a few more questions before we go to the audience, but just a quick question, if you guys can sum it up in a couple of points. What is it that radio can learn from what Now Radio has done in Edmonton?
I'll throw a couple in, and then I know Mark will. Number one is recruit until it hurts. You know, you've got to find great talent, and it's as difficult as it is. It's, you know, it's a full-time job, but you know, recruit, find great talent, but sometimes even find some raw talent that you see potential in or you hear potential in, and coach them and put them on the air. Another one would be coach. Air checks, you know, air checks every 2 weeks, really, it doesn't cut it. You know, you wouldn't believe how many people we talk to, radio hosts, whether it's, you know, if it's in another company and they're interested in working for ours, one of the first questions I'll ask them is, what are you working on right now with your PD? And quite often, the answer is, I haven't had an air check in 3 or 4 months or 6 months. Years. Or that. And you cannot execute this format in that manner. Just, it won't work. So that would be my two.
I think it's the investment in the hosts. You have to find the right people. You have to treat them well. You have to inspire, not inspire. and work with them hard. And once they get it, like once they fully get it, they rock. But they got to be interesting people. And I'll tell a quick story. So Haley is one of the pictures of a person up there. She came into the radio station not even knowing what she was applying for. She was just out and about, dropping off resumes everywhere in Edmonton, looking for a gig, looking for a job. So she was at the front desk, and my daughter was filling in on reception. And she phoned me and said, there's this girl here. Her name's Haley. I think she's pretty interesting. And I said, what's she here for? And she says, I think the Truxicle, which is our summer event where we drive around and hand out free popsicles all summer long. And I said, okay. So Haley didn't know what she was applying to do. She sat down and my daughter prompted her and said, oh, you're here for Truxicle. So Haley Googled Truxicle, sitting at the desk, and saw our Instagram pictures of all of us out and about. So when she came and sat in my office, I said, so you're here for Truxicle? And she goes, you bet. And she was lying to me. And she told me 2 years later that she was lying to me, but I didn't know at the time. And so, of course, I hired her, and she was awesome. And, and now she's on the morning show with the Crash and Mars, the morning show producer. But she had absolutely no broadcasting experience, none. And that is good. I like that, because then I can work with these people. I can go, I can teach them from the ground. We can work with them and get them to where they need to be. But yeah, now she's a little rock star on the radio station, and it all started with a lie. So I like to tell that.
So lie to get ahead.
Yeah, that's not free advice to anybody, but it's the truth. But within that, we found, Joelle be an example. Ross, she works for us in Calgary. She just brought in some lemon cake one day and gave us cake at the radio station, and we put it on the radio station over the lunch hour. And I hope she's here, because I've said this to her face. It was horrible. But what happened is she did a fantastic social media post, because it was on her bucket list to be on a radio station one day. And I came across the social media post. So I phoned her up and I brought her in, and I said, okay, the girl that wrote this is the person I want working for me. Can you do that? Can you be that person on the radio? And she goes, I don't know. So we worked on that. And she exudes warmth. She has the most infectious laugh you've ever heard. And she is just nice. So now she's doing middays for us in Calgary. With a co-host. So it's always, I think, to Ross's point, it's recruit till it hurts, but keep your mind open. I don't look at social media websites, or I don't look at job sites. I look at people. I want to meet interesting people. I'm working with a guy right now. I know I'm going to get him on the radio, but he was a server for me at a restaurant, and he was
a bar.
Yeah, it was a restaurant. It was okay. It was a pub. Let's be fair. Anyway, but he's hysterical, and he's funny, and he has natural improv skills. He knows how to go yes and we keep the conversations going, and we just keep talking and having fun, and he cracks me up. And I always think, if you can make me laugh, because I'm a tough audience usually, if you can make me laugh, I went, you're an interesting person, and then the rest is history. Once you find interesting people who are willing to learn and try new things, I think they'll have huge success.
So the host obviously is a big part of.
That's it.
So the host is obviously a big part of the equation. So switching gears a little bit. So do you think the now format, let's use that title for now, would work in a different music format outside the hot AC format? I know it's kind of like a loaded question, but I just feel obviously the join the conversation part is so big. So do you think that could be transferred in a music format, for example, that is rock, or that is country, or that is anything else? Or is that bound to the hot AC format, music format, in your opinion?
I don't know if it's bound to. It's an interesting question, Andy. I think that I don't think it would fit, for example, on a classic rock or a classic hits. Those formats are older, and it's.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough question, because I do believe, I can't prove it. I do believe that if you have great talent, it could probably work on other formats. I agree with Ross. I wouldn't do it on the older formats, because you'd have to honestly start over. You'd have to get new talent. The people that have been doing format for years and years, their heritage, and they know, and they have an audience. And are they willing to make a big change where they have to be air checked every day by me or a Ross or that's not going to fly. But I think it would have a shot on modern rock. I do think. I'm CHR maybe, but they got to be willing to play less songs and let the host talk a lot.
I think with CHR, because a lot of the songs are so short these days because of TikTok, like on Spotify, there's so many super short songs with like 2:30 and like basic for CHR. I mean, and it's just me personally without knowing so much as you guys, but I just feel how short the attention spans are, like with young adults, or with kids, especially I see with my kids. Like I think it'd be an interesting one trying it out, because I feel depending on how often you switch the conversation and make it I mean, these topics are just like, there's like new trends, like basically born every second. You could, I don't know. I just thought it'd be an interesting question. So Will can summarize it, maybe say maybe younger formats could be, older formats maybe not. So I think that's a fair answer.
And I think it's worth underscoring that when you put Now Radio on the air, you didn't go hire any famous, well-known, successful talent. These were people that were diamonds in the rough, right? I mean, you've identified people primarily in smaller markets, coached them, brought them in, and together you made stars.
Yeah. Only one person was here. The midday guy, Adam McHale, was here working on the CHR station, but he just got through a meeting, told he could not talk for more than 7 seconds 3 times an hour. And the phone call, the timing was perfect, really. And it was luck. But, phoned him up, took him up for some dinner with his wife, and his wife accepted the job before he did. So, and now here we are. And he's got 2 kids living in a beautiful house and doing very well. So it's great.
So Mark, you were the first program director of Now Radio. I think, a fear most people would have naturally going into doing this type of format is, what do I do? It seems like the focus is a much different skill set than most music radio. And I did want to pop up a picture of the current program director, Jay Stone. And I don't know, this looks like, is this a banner you guys put up at the Edmonton airport or something when he came?
Yeah, I think that's one of them. Yeah, we had another one that said, welcome back. We missed you, Now Radio. And
which is, first off, I mean, who doesn't work for a company that's going to go through that kind of effort? Welcome home. I mean, nobody does that. I mean, what an environment and culture you guys have.
Yeah, and we're doing it across Madison, honestly. Like, Ross, speak to JR, right? What kind of billboards do we have up coming back from the States? And
yeah. Well, there's the Hell Yeah campaign, and there's the one that you just mentioned, Welcome Back, We Missed You. And so I think those are pretty cool.
We put it up in we call them satellite communities. So we have town of Stony Plain and Spruce Grove, and they're all, cities, big, nice cities, not as big as Edmonton. They're a 20-minute, half-hour commute out. And we put billboards up and go, we love you, Stony Plain. We really do, Now Radio. And we only buy one billboard, and we put it up in all those communities and just let it run. And it's so funny because, sincerely, they are in our PPM. They could have meters. They could be, contributing to the ratings. But, it's just the audacity. We're not selling anything. We're just saying, hey, we love you. Welcome. And this welcome home makes my heart smile every time I see it.
Right. It's fantastic. So what does it take then? What would be the qualities you look for? I mean, obviously, hiring your replacement certainly wouldn't have been easy. So what were the qualities you were looking for in this person to lead the Now legacy?
Jay and I have worked together for years. So he used to, Jay, I'm speaking on your behalf, and I know you're listening, so I'll try and get this correct. Jay worked in BC, military in the Air Force, and he was an avionics specialist. I'm saying that wrong. He fixed airplanes and fixed things on airplanes. So he was working at a radio station. He sent me a demo. I worked with him for a little bit, and then finally got the opportunity to hire him. And he moved out to Saskatchewan and worked for our radio. But they're trying to do things that are not on brand for the radio station. And he's, my title, I always called myself the brand guardian. That's what I do. I protect the brand, and that's protecting the hosts, the conversations, the music, and everything we play on the radio station, and not being allowed to fall off that. and he's spectacular at that. And we rant at each other a couple times a month, usually going, my God, what a stupid idea. Why would somebody want to do that? And then we have to always say no to the sales manager and sometimes the general manager. And it's interesting. But if we protect the brand, look at the ratings, look at how it's done over the last 10, 12 years. We protected that thing. It's our baby, and we got to take care of it and let it be successful. If we, nurture it and treat the hosts well and take care of them and coach and teach and get tired of doing it, then we know we're doing it right.
The only thing I'll add to that is we have Jay in Edmonton, and Jonathan Best in Calgary and Ray in Winnipeg. And the thing that they all have, some of the things they all have in common,
and Russell,
aside from that, Russell, that they're programming this format, is they're very disciplined about their craft. They believe in it, like strongly believe in it. They have strong relationships, great connection with their on-air talent, ideas. They're ideas people. So they're very creative, promotionally and innovative, and not afraid to take risks, within the conversation brand. And they're also, coaching is such a big part of it. So that's also a talent of theirs. And like I said before, when you're coaching and working with the talent in this format, you really got to be part of it with them and part of the content creation and helping guide them and look at different angles and how do we attack this conversation? What's the best way? And that's what they all have in common, our PDs in the format.
Yeah, definitely a big role to fill, and totally, like Ken said, totally different skill set, or partially totally different skill set than other PDs. So I think, Ken, that's going to be the last question, right? Before we're taking some questions from the audience. So, I mean, now radio is so successful and long-term successful, and I know that, we kind of touched on that last time, but why haven't more stations launched the now radio form? And guys, it's going to work in some markets, maybe in countries. Obviously, you try to do this in other markets in Canada, but what is your feeling about the countries? Obviously, you don't know all of them, but what is your feeling about other markets and other English-speaking countries in particular, maybe too?
You mean would
that work in Australia?
I think it would. I think it would work. In there, they're not that much different. I think it would work in other countries for sure, in the UK, and Ken, you certainly know the European markets because you work with a lot of markets in Europe better than I do. But I do think it would work. Your question about why haven't other people launched this, it kind of goes back to what we were talking earlier. It's hard to wrap your head around it. This is not, I'm coming to you with an 80s format. Okay, I get it. But coming to you with conversation is you don't always hear it at first. And so, but I think the other thing is that it takes a real investment. It really does. We've said this a number of times, when Pattison bought the station off of the previous owners, Ralco, the company resisted the temptation to change anything. And that was on purpose. A, we didn't want to screw it up. But B, we wanted to learn from it. And we spent a lot of years learning from it. And so it does take a commitment from staff to management to ownership, and a discipline to not stray.
Yeah. And
so that's hard for some people to accept and then execute.
I think that's a wonderful ending of our questions. So Ken, you want to take the first questions from the audience?
Yeah, sure. And if you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat box.
There's a Q&A only area too. That's what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
So and I guess I just had to relog back on because I got dropped for some reason. But so I missed some of the Q&A questions, didn't repopulate on my screen. So Andy, do you want to go with the first one?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a question from Bill Allen. How much did you guys spend on your launch billboard? Because it sounds like a big investment.
There's some things we can't tell you everything.
Can you factor in the inflation rate, please?
I am privy to the number, and it was too much, but it was amazing. So, we're talking six figures for sure, if not seven.
Okay. What do you see, Ken, as the next question? Susan Wright?
All I have is the Bill Allen question, so I'll let you take the questions.
Okay, wonderful. Susan Wright asks, you mentioned classic formats not being a good fit for that. Is that a belief specifically because of the jocks set in their ways, or does the older music listeners also play into that thought?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think it's both, because people who've been listening to classic rock stations, and I listen to some classic rock stations or classic hits, have been listening for a long time, and they listen because they like the package. They like what they're getting. They like the hits. They like the hosts. And if you have heritage hosts, what heritage hosts are going to all of a sudden, in their 50s, try to convert to conversation radio? I'm not saying it couldn't be done. I just don't know if it's a fit.
Yeah.
Don't know if that's what the listeners want. I don't know if that's what the talent could execute. And you know what? In a lot of those stations, the great heritage hosts that they have, I think trumps, for those stations, it kind of trumps everything else.
Absolutely. So next question comes from Nick. How long should a host hold on one topic for? In South Africa, so Nick's obviously from South Africa, we usually run it like this: share the story, throw out the call, 2 actions, 2 song callers or voice notes, 2 songs, and then wrap up topic. How do you guys do it? So I think he's asking for like kind of clock kind of thing, which obviously is not existing.
So Nick, as long as it's interesting, we will go with it. And that's it. Like, so when we do a conversation setup, and you're doing exactly like we are here, we will introduce the content, the topic, which is context. So we're going to talk about this, and this is why we're talking about this. And it's a couple minutes of talking. Then we'll play 2 songs and we'll come back. And then we hope we have some engagement from our audience in the form of text or phone calls. Then we'll read those texts and play those phone calls. And then we'll play 2 more songs and we'll come back and do it a 3rd time. If it isn't working by the 3rd time, as long as it's interesting and it keeps being fresh, it's repetitive, move on, right? So that's it. So there is no timeline, really and truly. Try and do one topic an hour. But
sorry, go ahead, Mark.
That's okay. Yeah, we prep for one topic an hour roughly. So if you're doing a 5-hour shift, you should have at least 5 topics prepped out, ready to go, with at least 3 breaks prepared of how you're going to do it. Introduce the topic, read some text, and do it again. And sometimes, in early stages, I ask the host to do 2 topics an hour, one every 30 minutes. So now if you're doing a 5-hour shift, you got to have 10 topics ready to go. So you can imagine the prep cycle. It's a lot of work. And that's what the jams are for in the office, is they'll say, I got this idea, we'll jam, and maybe it can go organic and we can find 2 or 3 more ways to keep it going. And eventually it just takes care of itself. But yeah, there you go.
So Mark and Ross, before we finish up, how about the big announcement?
Breaking news.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So the breaking news, and this really is breaking news. So I'll have to make sure I get it right. But our company, Pattison Media, has entered into an agreement with Momentum Media, who's also based here in Vancouver. And the partnership is to bring the now branded format under the Today Radio trademarks to the United States. As we've said in this call, the format is not a quick fix, but when it's executed correctly and adheres to a number of core programming and marketing tenets, some of which we've spoken about on this call, not all of them, but when it's executed that way, it has proven to be a transformational format. So we're looking for a select number of operators who want to be the first movers. You can reach out to myself. You can see the email address on the screen, ross.winters@pattisonmedia.com, or Sean Smith from Momentum Media, who's also on this call, and his email is sean@momentummediamarketing.com. But if you forget all of that, and Ken knows how to get a hold of us.
Or you can get in touch with us, because Momentum is also wrapping the Benztown products in Canada, which is I think it's a great company, and they do a fantastic job. So like I hope you guys going to be super successful with what you build in the United States. So
the other thing I'll add is well, thank you. And the other thing I'll just add on that is, I know we didn't say Europe, but I don't want you to feel bad. So, I mean, if you are in Europe and interested in this format, you can also still reach out.
Yeah, I'll start it from my basement here. I think I'll get some conversations going. I'm just not so good at not swearing on the air. So like, I'm going to be like, they're going to pull me off the air really quick. So
we'll give you a delay.
Well,
Yeah.
you guys have created something truly special and truly amazing, and glad to see you expanding in Canada with your own company and now beyond the borders. So we wish you well with that. And again, thank you so much for sharing. The entire series is available at all those places at any time. So let's talk about the next webinar. We're back on Thursday, November 3rd, with a guy who's programmed some iconic stations, including Virgin Radio, Capital FM, and XFM in the UK, and has spent the last 12 years as the group program director at Nova Entertainment in Australia, overseeing and building the Nova and Smooth brands. So join us on November 3rd. The name of the session with Paul Jackson will be How to Be Creative, Have Fun, and Create Two Massive Radio Brands, and what we can learn from radio in Australia. So more on that.
Looking forward to that.
And gentlemen, again, thank you so much. You were so generous with your time and your knowledge, and it was really great to have you. So thank you.
Thank you so much,
Ken.
guys.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, guys.
And thanks to our producer, Suzanne, and we'll see you guys in a few weeks.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Take it easy, guys. Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
buddy.
Bye.